Chapter 7. Location: Black Hills, South Dakota. Date: June 19th. Gabriel Tuoer. The road in front of Gabe was black, except for the white lines illuminated by the motorcycle headlights flashing past. He sensed a change in the air. He hit the brakes and turned off the engine. He listened, not just to the sounds of the night, the crickets in the field to his left, or the wind twisting playfully through the branches overhead. No, Gabe listened deeper, to the very vibrations traveling through the ground at his feet and the air all around him. Despite the darkness that penetrated the night and swallowed up the light from his headlight, he knew he wasn't alone. You can step into the light. He lowered his kickstand and stepped away from the bike. It felt like he was tearing in half, like a cell splitting in two. He'd left his weapons with Abigail. He'd agreed to come willingly. No fighting. The darkness was too complete. The full moon over his head provided no reflection off any objects on the ground. He could hear the slight movement of Fenris. They surrounded him in a perfect circle, one step outside the light, and for each Fenris, there was a human, possessed. One man stepped forward, a fedora hat pulled down over his eyes, a heavy trench coat hanging from his shoulders. The face belonged to Gabe's brother, Vox, who had died fighting by his side. Gabe took a step back. He didn't mean to show weakness, but Vox was the last person he expected to see here. Don't look so surprised. The voice of Caden Bachman came from Vox's mouth. Gabe wanted to reach down his throat and pull Bachman's soul from Vox's chest, if only it worked that way. I thought it might be nice to welcome you home with a familiar face. Gabe had expected cruelty, but not the twisting in his gut at the sight of his brother. He swallowed. You wanted to meet. Here I am. He put his hands out to both sides to prove he had no weapons. I didn't think you'd come so passively. Caden scratched the scruff of beard on Vox's face. The movement was familiar. Something his brother always did when he was thinking. Gabe had to remind himself that he was not talking to Vox. We had a deal. Gabe had spent the last 3 days wishing he could slow time, wishing he had more moments to share with Abigail and Treadon, wishing this role had never come to him. That thought felt like the deepest betrayal of all. I come willingly, and you give us a little more time. Time I look forward to. Caden Bachman pulled black gloves over his hands, squeezing his fists so the leather of the gloves stretched tight. Not all of Adura's visions were common knowledge. Not everything she saw made sense. And now you're mine. I don't even think Adura saw this moment coming. Caden stepped forward and slammed his fist into Gabe's jaw. The power behind the blow was far more than an old man like Vox was capable of. The pain sent Gabe down to one knee, his ears ringing. He resisted the instinct to fight back. He'd given his word. He would surrender without a fight. Caden pulled back and hit him across the cheekbone. Gabe's face split, and blood splattered on the ground. You said she was still alive. Gabe felt as if the last small part of him that he'd believed was good was shriveling into nothing. He'd made a deal with the devil to save a few ordinaries. His family. Would this final sacrifice finally lead him back to his descendant? Would his betrayal of his calling as guardian finally come to light? He'd fallen for another woman, had almost been willing to give up and run away with her, and leave the world to its ruin. The thought of Abigail, her strength, her soft words, her fingers as she nursed his wounds over and over, the pain in her eyes, the pain he had caused, left him short of breath. Caden raised one eyebrow. Fox's face was that of an old man who'd spent too much time in the sun, wrinkled and leathered, but the eyes were a flat black. You think I would have had to plan so carefully to make sure nothing could stop me if I had the future written out for me? Gabe felt a chill of ice growing in his heart, his breath freezing in his lungs. What do you mean? I am not the one you should come for truth, Gabriel Tuoer. You should know better than that. You know the prophecies of Adura better than anyone. You wrote them with her, and yet you still fight, knowing that she knew I would win. His fist came down a final time, and all the lights in the world blinked out.